You receive a call about a great job opportunity that you applied to a couple of weeks ago, and everything's going well on the call. You're sharing with them your most recent experience, why you think you're a good fit for the role, and the recruiter sharing with you more of the day-to-day responsibilities that you'd be responsible for. Everything is awesome until they ask you, hey, why such a large gap in between your most two recent employers? What do? For some employers, this could be a signal of a red flag. Hi everybody, I am Cherie Stewart, the HR GOAT, and today we're going to talk about how to answer that question. Why do you have a large resume gap? Answering that question can be crucial to your job interview search. So, why would a large gap in employment even be a red flag for a potential employer? Well, it depends. Were you let go because you were terminated unexpectedly? Was there an issue with your performance? Did you decide that, hey, this wasn't a right fit for me, and neither was the place before that or the place before that? Are you a job hopper? Does it speak to instability in what you're looking for in a role? Or are there other red flags? Do you bore easily? These are some of the things that an employer may want to question or have concerns about if they see large gaps in employment. But guess what? If you have a large gap, you're not alone. According to a recent article by ZipRecruiter, it can take upwards of 3 months on average for someone to leave a position and find a new opportunity if there's not something automatically waiting for them. So something that may look like a large gap to you or be a potential red flag might not be a red flag anymore in today's market. For example, a lot of individuals may want to take a break in between jobs, maybe travel a little bit, maybe decide, hey, that last position was really stressful. Before I start this new role, I know I'm not going to probably be able to take a lot of time off when I first start. Let me take a break. Let me refresh, make sure that I am ready to give myself that best foot forward when I start that new role. So once again, if you've got a gap, 3 months, 6 months, or possibly more, it's really important in how you answer that question or what your response will be. So let's cover some tips on how you should respond to those gaps. First up, you want to make sure that anything you have on your application matches to what you have on your resume. Oftentimes, red flags can be raised when on the application, it's not matching up to what's on the person's resume. Are you making things up? Are you just sloppy in how you put your resume and or application together? Or are you trying to conceal something and you kind of messed yourself up? So consistency is key. Now, let's say that there is a gap on the resume. How do you speak to that? Well, it really depends on how, upfront you want to be with what that gap was. But remember, you're not alone. A lot of people have gaps in employment these days. So, was it a matter of you feeling like you were burnt out at the last place? If so, then you may want to respond with, yes, I did take off 6 to 9 months, but as you can see, my most recent employment, I was there for about 4 years. I had progressively increasing responsibilities, and when I left, I really wanted to take some time off for me. I got the opportunity to travel, or maybe you can say, hey, I wanted to improve my skill set. I didn't have the opportunity to do a lot of training and development while I was working because of the time restraints. So during that time, I went back to school. I got a certification. I did some reading in my niche or field because I really wanted to make sure that I'm staying up to date on my skill sets and what I can bring to the table. Another response can be, Yes, it has been 6 months, but it's 6 months with me being intentional on the next new job or opportunity that I was looking for. I want to make sure that I'm finding the right organization that matches my values. The mission is important or has to be important to me. I want to make sure that it's a good fit, so I'm being intentional and purposeful on that next job. I'm not just trying to apply or grab anything that comes along. It has to be a great fit for me. Let's say it's been longer than a year. Once again, how much you want to share is really up to you. So, let's say you have been a caregiver. Maybe you've been raising kids. Maybe a loved one needed assistance at home, or maybe you were faced with your own medical issues. You may want to say, yes, there was a gap of a year due to some personal family issues. I wanted to make sure that I could take that time out to focus on my family's health, the health of myself, so that I could recover and bring my best self to that new employer or opportunity. And leave it at that. The goal is for you to focus on what you are bringing to the table. So going back or saying or closing out that statement with, again, while I did take off that year, as you can see from my resume, I'm bringing to the table 4 or 5 years of increasing experience in my field. I think that I'm a good fit because, and share with that what that is. So getting it back on track to why you feel that you're a good fit for the role. And if during that time maybe you were working on your skill sets, then focus on that. Yes, it was a year off. Yes, I had to take time out for family, but I made sure that I stayed up to date on any new recent legislation, changes in the marketplace, and share some examples as to how you did that. Do you belong to a specific group or affinity group or organization? Did you keep up to date on the news? Sharing how you stayed on top of your role or opportunity would be a great example of how you answer that skills gap question. Remember, they picked your resume for a reason, and that's because they probably thought that you were a good fit or met the minimum qualifications for the role. So speak up and speak to those positive things that you're bringing to the table. So the tough part, what if you were let go from your last place of employment? Maybe they gave you a payout. Maybe you collected unemployment for a few months because you were really bummed that it even came to that. Carefully consider how you answer that question. I would say, hey, you know what? It wasn't the best fit for me. And I did have to take some time off to really think and align myself with an organization that I thought would be a better fit for whatever reason, whether it was for growth opportunities, maybe a better work-life balance. Think through it, but either way, just be prepared to answer that question when asked. Some career coaches may recommend that you alter your resume so that it appears to be more of what we call a functional resume, where you're not listing previous employers in a chronological order, but really highlighting what your skill sets are and what you bring to the table. My opinion, I'm not a fan of them. The reason being, it's very hard for a recruiter on the back end to initially determine, does this person meet the minimum qualifications and or preferred qualifications for the role? A recruiter can get hundreds of resumes in like the first 2 to 3 days of an open job opportunity. So they may have no more than 2 to 3 minutes to review your resume. They usually look to see if you're meeting the minimum qualifications first. That's usually like that first gatekeeper. And by minimum qualifications, let's say the role requires minimum of an associate's degree and 2 to 3 years of account management experience. If they can't tell if you have that using a functional resume, because the functional resume may speak to your skill sets, but it may not speak to a matter of time or how much time you have in that role, it's going to be very difficult for them to be able to gauge if you meet minimum and or preferred qualifications. So they may or may not want to reach out to you for that initial vetting or move your resume on to the next stage. It's up to you, but me being on the back end or the HR side, I'm the HR goat, oftentimes the functional resume is not a fan for me. So let's recap. If you have what you think is a large gap in employment, chances are you're not alone. A lot of individuals may be taking time off to travel, maybe upskilling, maybe having to take care of a family member, or maybe just need to take a break in between their last job and that new opportunity. It's the trend these days. And on average, it can take someone anywhere from 3 to upwards of 6 months to find a new job opportunity. It really depends on the market. So, answering that question is key. You want to make sure that you're prepared, that you've got a good response, and that you're taking the conversation back to why you're a great fit for that new job or opportunity. I'm Cherise Stewart, the HR GOAT. Like us and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you for our next show topic.